morning. This is the Saturday morning interview. My name is Geoffrey Onditi. Last week on the Saturday morning interview, we hosted Senator Kennedy Mong'are Okongo, who is vying for the presidency of Kenya. We promised to continue the conversation about his bid and what he plans for this country. Today, we continue with the conversation about his bid. Within the week, the presidential aspirant unveiled his running mate Caroline Indisia from Kakamega. Today, we will talk about Caroline Indisia and the plans they have for Kenya. Welcome again, Senator Mong'are, to the Saturday morning interview.
Good morning, Mr. Onditi.
How have you been since last week?
Very good, and there are good things for Kenyans because on Sunday I unveiled my running mate. Instead, I'm the only candidate who is complying with the constitution on the gender rule. My running mate is a woman of repute and wisdom in the name of Caroline Indisia Oko from Kakamega, a teacher by profession. She has also seen that it's important that she joins me in this walk to redeem our country.
You are unique in that you chose a woman to be your running mate. Why did you decide on this?
Basically, the marginalized groups in this country are youth and women. In my other profession of law, I'm biased in youth and women. And this is a constitutional issue. You remember that Parliament of Kenya has failed to comply with the passage of the gender rule. They have been even compelled now by the courts to do so in the 60 days. The ruling, in my legal view, is belated. It's proper, but it's belated because Parliament, even if they are forced by that kind of law, there will be no compliance. Because at the expiry of 60 days, it will be in July. So it's a tragedy, but I've said that if these political parties who are masquerading as the people who emancipate Kenya can comply in their parties, in the National Liberal Party, which I head, we are striving to comply with the gender rule in terms of our candidates. And as a president, I'm the only one who has the ability and a plan to comply to 50-50, not even two-thirds, 50-50, because these women are a part of society. They are the majority. That's why I've given the women of Kenya an option that where I be the driver, I need their alone to be the conductor in the bus.
Yes, when you talk about your running mate, that is Caroline. When you talk about Caroline, what are some of her qualifications? Why did you consider Caroline to be your running mate?
I got a team of consultants who looked throughout the country. First off, you need to get somebody who has a will to serve. There were interviews all over the country, but they settled on her because she's been involved in KNTU background politics. She has also worked in the Chamber of Commerce in Kakamega. She's an educationist after teaching for almost over 20 years. I think she fit the bill because she was also interested to run for office. She wanted to run for office, and that calling itself, to me, it was fit that instead of running for a women rep position, I thought she fits to run for Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Yes, and are you confident of her?
Very confident. I've interacted with her severally, and I think one of the fine days you get an opportunity to have a chat with her and hear yourself. But I think she fits the bill as a mother, grandmother, and as a woman of repute who wants to advance not only women of Kenya, youth, women, and to strive to put this country on the right path.
What message are you sending to Kenyans in terms of gender parity in this country?
I'm just telling Kenyans in general, women, youth, and men in general, that we are in 21st century. We need to remove some orthodox tags, cultural tags, which are not beneficial. We need to be cultural, yes. But if you look around now, women have become pilots, women have become doctors, women have become engineers. In the political sphere also, you've seen that women do very, very well. Even if you look at even corruption matters,
yes,
out of 10 corrupt instances, you'll find one woman or two. So they are custodians. They are not greedy because they are mothers. They have the pains. When you see women go angry, their children go angry. So they are good custodians. Look at Rwanda for the last 10 years or so. Kagame has done a splendid job. That in the government of Rwanda, half of it is women. And if you see the prosperity in Rwanda, which is in the size of Nairobi, you'll be surprised on the work which is done. They are not really checked, they are doing their work because they have the basic education, they have the basic knowledge, and in fact, women multitask than men.
We know the history of Rwanda. What good or what unique thing has Rwanda done in order to enhance its image in the African continent and the world? What can we learn from Rwanda as a country?
President Kagame, after the unfortunate tragic events of 1994, decided to make Rwanda one. If you go to Rwanda, you'll be told that I'm a Rwandese. You not hear that I'm Hutu or Tutsi. I've been to Rwanda several times. That has been a decree of government, that if you are found to be talking about where you come from, because it was tragic, it was a carnage, it caused a lot of deaths, then the people of Rwanda have decided under the stewardship of President Kagame to be Rwandese. It's criminal to say that you are Mkisi, Mjaruo, or whatever it is. That cohesiveness has been brought upon, and with that also, there's huge development. Rwanda's government is digital. They're paperless. If you go to issues of environment, Rwanda has done what many other countries have not done in terms of environment. They say there is no polythene bags in Rwanda or anything polythene in Rwanda, and this is done. In Kenya, the minister wakes up one morning to talk about banning of plastic bags without even looking at the bigger picture. What is required is not even banning. We need to talk about regulations, huge regulations. You come with laws which are broad-based. You bring on board those industries, companies who are dealing with these issues. This polythene bag is not just banning polythene bag. You've done nothing to the whole issue. So Rwanda, with that kind of discipline and cohesion and having all people inclusive, in nature, the president walks around, he is in charge, he is answerable to the Rwandese people on every aspect because he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces.
Let's focus on another issue, because we all know that you are going to vie for the presidency of this country, and I know you have a blueprint for this country. When we talk about, for example, economic empowerment, we know that very many Kenyans are poor. How do you plan to empower Kenyans in terms of economic development so that people can get food on the table?
15 months ago, Ndakaini Dam was, overflowing. What are we talking about now? We are being told Ndakaini Dam is drying. There is no sufficient water, meaning there is rationing of water. Not only rationing of water, there is rationing of electricity because of misguided priorities of the government. We'll do a lot of rain harvest. We'll do dams, especially in arid areas. If you look at Kajiado North, the other day I saw an MP there who sank 2 poles, and it was like a miracle for the people of that site to get water. So it's misplaced priorities by our leaders and theft and corruption of these issues. Karana irrigation scheme, we sank over 6 billion shillings. What do we harvest? Food worth 2 billion shillings. Where did the 6 billion go? In the pockets of the selfish theft officers. So those are the things that as a government will deal with, especially to sustain food sufficient. If you look at Turkana, for instance, you've seen people in Turkana, in small scales, they managed to do vegetables in Garissa and all those others. Those are areas we can work every day as a government to make sure that the basic needs are attained first before we talk about SGR, before we talk about this mega project which are riddled with mega corruption. Basic needs, that's why our government will be dealing with basic needs: water, food, and medical care. That's the priority for every government which is independent.
So that is the basis of development, basic needs first.
That's the basis of development. If people are hungry, they do nothing. If people are, do you know why Mong'are has stayed in power for too long? Is people are full. In Zimbabwe, in the 80s, it was the basket of Africa, even though that has diminished because of dictatorial tendencies of President Mugabe. But the people of Zimbabwe, as huge as they are in terms of inflation, there they carry money in wheelbarrows. But they don't lack ugali, they don't lack sweet potatoes, sweet bananas, they are in abundance. So they don't complain, all right? If you give the people basic needs first, they can't even complain. You can even have an opportunity to progress on other. Look at our neighbor in Uganda. The people of Uganda are full. Matoka is in plenty, ugali is in plenty. If you walk on the roads, meat is sold like sweets on the street. That's why Museveni, with these some dictatorial tendencies, this is for him to lead a country like that, because people are full. Revolution started in the world because of lack of basic needs. The only revolution we want in Kenya is to remove the Jubilee regime. It's called an electoral revolution. We remove the Jubilee regime, we take power so that we can get our country back in terms of providing basic needs. Because you get surprised, Mr. Onditi, when the regime, you saw the president unveiling a portal, e-portal, for Kenyans to go and see the development of the Jubilee regime in the last 4 years. This portal requires that if you have, because Kenyans are now, many Kenyans have phones. I'm told, I've checked statistics that almost 14 million Kenyans have phones. But these people sleep hungry. Even if they have phones, some of them sleep hungry. So where are you going to get money to be connected to this portal to check what the government is telling us? And I was surprised to see the press in that portal, athletics. Our sportsmen and women who've been suffering heavily, because I was in this business of coaching athletes for almost 15 years. I trained, coached athletes, traveled with them around the world. Now, I saw in one of the portals that the Jubilee regime is taking the credit of these athletes who are suffering. Some of them who are being, mistreated outside there because they are double taxed. The Jubilee regime has double taxed these athletes. They are taxed if they are running in France, for instance, or in Germany. They are taxing there. The government is taxing here. And the regime is saying, it's the Jubilee regime which has taken care of this. I've even challenged the President of the Republic. Out of the 7,000 roads he has done, I've challenged him. If he can drive, because I'm one of these, he's my only competitor, and I'm one of these toughest competitors. If he can drive with me and show me 100 kilometers of roads which has been done by the Jubilee regime or constructed by the Jubilee regime in the last 4 years, I'll drop down my bid. Because it's not there. Piece me roads. Like I've driven Nairobi. Nairobi, they have done an average of 15 to 20 kilometers of roads. 20 to 30 kilometers of Nairobi roads have been done. To them, they say it's 1,000. In their estimates. There is no road they have done which can reach 100 kilometers. They are talking about, why are those roads? Why can't he move? While he's doing his campaigns fast, he drives on those roads because he has the security. The roads can be cleared. There are no roads. 7,000 of roads, Mr. Nditi, is a huge, huge investment. There are plans to do that I'm aware of. But to have completed them, no, they have not been done. And that's not a priority. The priority of the people, put the food on the people's tables. 60% of Kenyans sleep hungry up to 4 days. There is no water. If the president can convince me and his regime that they have done this, I'll be convinced. But I've traveled in this country, courtesy of Parliament. I've gone to all corners. The SGR line from Mombasa to Nairobi, underneath, there are people who don't have toilets, who don't have food, who don't have... So this railway will be for the rich and corrupt entrepreneurs who can afford even to sit in that 4 hours train from Mombasa to Nairobi. Maybe if I was a member of Parliament, I can be paid for taxpayers' money. A common man will not even ride on that. Who are going to transport those goods? There is an issue I wanted to address on the issues of industries in this country which have collapsed in the last 50 years. Yes. It's a misguided approach of government to start reviving... Pan paper, for instance, or Webuye. The setup of those institutions is collapsed. The buildings have collapsed. What is required now in the 21st century is to look about the issue of cottage industries. You look at an area like what is available in this area, you start cottage industries which does not require really huge infrastructure. Secondly, I have a plan that when we take power as the National Liberal Party, will reduce the retirement age to 50 years.
Why 50?
50 years. A 50-year-old as a 22-year-old with an MPA, with a degree, a diploma. Why should you be hanging on if you have been paid very well, your package, you are sent off after 50? When I'm talking about 50, I assume that I put a group of figure that maybe somebody started working at 30. If you have worked, Mr. Onditi, in an institution for 20 years, you've lived your usefulness. The graph economical scales which we talk about will be promulgating. It will be going up. And there are men and women in this country who wanted even to teach. There are men and women who wanted to sing. There are men and women who wanted to do farming. If you give this 50-year-old this package, send off package on time, with devolution now, these people can go and invest in the counties.
And I've seen people retire at 60 or 60 or even 65 years, even 70.
It's a sad story because I've even seen in counties like in Nyamira and Kisii, you find people have been recycled. People can not attend a meeting for more than 10 minutes without starting winking and dosing. It's important also that these people we have gotten with diplomas, degrees and certificates stand fending for themselves. Yes, you can work at 60, but you have 4 children who you are paying for their basic needs. What's the essence of doing that? It's important that you move to other lives when you are strong, and then that's one of the ways we can salvage our country in economic development, because there's abundance.
This is the Saturday morning interview. Today I'm speaking with Senator Kennedy Mong'are Okongo about his plan for Kenya if he becomes the 5th president of this country. When you talk about development and economic development in this country, we know that when we educate people, we empower them. How are you planning to empower this Kenyan, this young person in Kenya, through good education so that we can have that development that we're talking about, for example?
Vocational institutions. Schedule 4 talks about even empowerment, which is also related to education. Institutions which are required to have, we should have in counties. They talk that we must have a university in every county. That might not be very essential. What we need is polytechnics now in every county. Polytechnics, for instance, if you're in Mombasa County, you need a polytechnic which heavily teaches on marine, because we are bordering the seas. Every subject should be in marine so that people can come from Pokot to come and study in marine. People can come from Kisii to come and study in marine. But if you are in Pokot, for instance, or in Turkana, for instance, we need polytechnics which will be heavily teaching on exploration of oil. If you are coming from Kakamega, now that we are told that in Kakamega there is plenty of gold reserves, they have Sigaragara, which is doing very well. We empower these young people to be in technical institutions which can capacitate their output when they go out there. And I agree with CS Matiang'i on this, that the way is saying that we reduce the number of humanities so that students can go to other areas, just like in Germany and Belgium. In Germany, for instance, you cannot do a door alone. The person who does inches is different. The person who fills is different. The person who does the rock is different. So there's creation, and they do it with a lot of precision. You will think that those are the issues we want, that speciality. Just a door. It will be done by around 10 people who will earn a living from there. They dropped out of Form 2, they went to vocational institutes, but their expertise, they can do it in a minute. That dog can be done in a minute, where you are giving somebody to fumble for 1 hour, but it can be done in 1 minute. But everybody has benefited. So those are the areas we want to incorporate, and with those polytechnics also. Like now, I can surprise you that in this country, if you look for good plumbers, they are not there. Counties are suffering. They are not good plumbers. They are not people who can do plumbing. They are not people who can do carpets in this country, because in the 80s, and from where I come from, in the whole of Wusiland, we used to have polytechnics. The people who are well trained in that are heading to 60 years of age, because I checked. And then they corrupt, because those things corrupt because of poor management and policies. Those are things we can revive to address the issues of youth. And on education, I also have to talk about giving free education from primary to university. It's possible in this country, considering the fact that every year in this country, we lose 400 billion to corruption. So if you cap that, you'll be home and dry. Government, national government alone, takes back to treasury after the financial year 340 billion unspent. So when you see Rotich telling us about 2.3 trillion, if you move like 340 billion, which will be not spent, which will be out to be stolen, because if you go to like every year, the year ends in June, you'll find government doing a lot of procurements, putting things in stores, meaning the government is very, very extravagant in procurement. Extravagant because as an head of a department in the ministry in charge of procurement, you have extravagantly budgeting for things you don't require. That's by the time the financial cycle ends, there's a surplus of money in the budget, which is stolen. So if you cap all those and have strict procurement rules, you'll be having, I've told you that they can be able to have around 700 billion to use in education, to give boom to university students, to give mandatory sanitary towels to our girls. Our girls are being tortured. It's in fact among the crimes against humanity. Our kids, toddlers, 12-year-old, 11-year-olds, if you see, you've seen it, you guys have captured in the media, where kids are getting leaves to fend for themselves when they have their menstruals. Our girls, our children. You've seen others trying to use mattresses. Then we claim we have a national government. We claim we have a sensitive government. That's why I'm telling Kenyans that it will be mandatory in our government that we have compulsory sanitary towels available in schools. How much money has been stolen in the money sent for procurement of books? You see, the minister, CS Matiang'i, is unearthing huge corruption networks. All those billions which are sunk to supply materials, the teaching and reading materials, 70 to 80% is stolen. Those are the loopholes which can be sealed by a serious government, and then we can avail to our young kids those sanitary towels. It will be compulsory in all schools.
In essence, corruption is affecting education and you're planning to fight corruption, and this corruption, when we end corruption, it means our education system will improve dearly.
It's a cancer. It's a cancer. This is the only monster around, and the only person with the ability, the plan to kill that is none other than Mong'are when I become president. These other people, if you go and open their wardrobes, they have stinking skeletons in their wardrobes. That's why you see they are just pointing fingers at each other. What do you do? You see government pointing fingers at the opposition. And when you are in power, what do you do? The only person who's not been in government, who is uncorrupt, the only work I've done for government is being a senator for Nyamira.
Mheshimiwa, when you talk about enhancing or developing the country, we start from the family level because the family is very important. When children grow in a proper manner, they become even better leaders. They develop the country in a good way. How is your presidency going to enhance especially family values?
Mr. Onditi, I get disappointed. I feel that it's so sad, it's tragic. And most Kenyans, from parents, especially parents, are living in denial. People in work offices are living in denial. In the Bible, you heard the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. For those people who don't read the Bible, they don't have to talk about Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible. Sodom and Gomorrah is right in Kenya, starting from the media. If you hear what people speak, the kind of conversations in our radio stations, the kind of conversations in our newspapers, it's tragic. You don't need to go to Sodom and Gomorrah. People want sensationalized kind of talk shows to earn money. But who are we spoiling? We spoil our generation. In fact, to take our generation now to remove this kind of cancer of immorality in our society. As a president, I deal heavily with issues of what information our people getting in our channels. If you listen to these talk show after talk show, they are talking dirty. That's why I'm talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. There's no respect. Our kids now, parents who are living in denial, have left their children. Why do you think young people are committing suicide even if they come from posh families? They are lonely. They don't have something to hang on because a parent thinks these kids need money. I have teenagers. I have challenges of dealing with my teenagers. I am very close to them. I look at what they do. I see the interferences on the media. I have a challenge that I have to be militant. I've told them it's either easy way or the hard way. The easy way is that they follow the moral fabrics of our society. The easy way is that the kids must grow in a Christian way. Because I'm born in a Christian family, I was a delinquent, but I don't want them to follow what I was. I've just put a fatwa that they have to be in church. I've given them, strict guidelines that they must be in charge whether I'm there or not. There they will interact with their peers, they'll be cancelled by their peers. This will recur in their older age in a sense of belonging. We don't have that. Parents are living in denial, pretending that everything is okay, whereas it's not. There are many parents who don't speak to their children. There are many mothers outside there who don't talk to their teenager girls. Their teenager girls can slap them, beat them up, and they come to workplaces in posh cars assuming everything is okay. Why? The environment. They've been corrupted by this Sodom and Gomorrah approach, which everybody else in the government has just left out. You saw Ezekiel Mutua. When he came with he's a friend of mine, we used to write with him when I was a correspondent. When he came with farm regulations, everybody was crying, freedom of speech, freedom of speech, so that it can be in Sodom and Gomorrah. It requires somebody with a firm hand who will say, this is not allowed.
So in essence, you're saying the media is spoiling this country in terms of the content that it's delivering to Kenyans.
The media is the greatest casualty to the moral fabric of our society. Another issue in terms of family values is that I have studied around, I've done a lot of research on issues, again, which brings the disconnectivity between families. You find that our ladies who are working, women who are working, when they've gotten children, within 2 months, they have weaned the children. They have weaned the babies from breastfeeding. The call of duty requires that they live at all because they are paid heavy salaries and they rely on that, the materialistic world. Meaning now, the children have been left with a lot of deficiency in growth, cognitive deficiencies, genetic deficiencies, the warmth of the parent. These are the most problems our families are undergoing, especially our women who are working. I have a plan that when we take power, our women will be given a maternity leave of up to 6 months. Children who are born nowadays, they stunted growth. If you look around, if you compare, because research has even shown that there's stunted growth. Stunted growth is coming because babies were borrowing milk from cows. There is no parental care as we used to see in the 80s. These issues I'll fight heavily as a president, that mothers must be available for their children up to 6 months.
What about fathers?
Fathers can be given technical appearances at night when they are available, but they can't breastfeed, but they need to be there to change nappies.
Finally, as we are winding up the Saturday morning interview, because you've talked about your policies and what you're planning to do for Kenya when you are elected as president, what promise can you really give Kenyans? Why should Kenyans have confidence in you?
Kenyans should rest assured that I'm not corrupt at all. I'll deal with the issues of corruption heavily. I'll work on cohesiveness of the nation heavily. I also work on the issues of security, which is really key to economic development, and give our uniformed forces a welfare package which is proper. A welfare package. I won't promise policemen and military men that I will give them salaries increment. We'll give them a welfare, food, housing and accommodation, and maybe their insurance cover. I'll be the best thing Kenya can have to salvage this country from where we've been for the last 53 years.
Thank you very much, Senator Mong'are Bokongo, for talking to us on KBC English Service and the Saturday morning interview.
Thanks very much, and I hope you'll give an opportunity next time to my deputy, who can also explain herself what she has to offer to Kenya as a running mate.
Caroline is always welcome.
Thanks very much.
And with that, we come to the end of the Saturday morning interview. Today, I have been speaking with Senator Kennedy Mong'are Okongo about his bid to be president of Kenya and the promises he has made to the Kenyan people. Till next week, my name is Geoffrey Onditi. Have a lovely weekend.